Shalom, shalom. Call halal Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai by Hashem Rakakwadash, double honors. Once again, the apostles of Great Millstone talking this truth. Well, it is now I'm out with the DC camp. And I just have to say, at this point, if you can't see that there's two different types, all right, wow. Double standard doesn't quite cut it, all right? Wow, this is from the Daily Cost. It says white guy gets 4 years for baby rape. Or Edomite gets 4 years for baby rape. Jake gets 12 years for having a cell phone, and making reference to something that happened a couple of weeks ago, at least. Time flies so fast, but there was a Jake down in Mississippi, all right? And they accused him of it was bullshit. It's going to get into that. Anyway, it says, which of these news items is more sickening to you? Mississippi man gets 12 years in prison for possessing a cell phone in county jail. A Mississippi man being held at a county jail on a misdemeanor charge asked a guard to charge his cell phone. The phone was confiscated, and the man was slapped with a 12-year prison sentence for possessing a phone in a correctional facility. He even gave the guard, as I understand it, his password and all that. He wasn't trying to hide anything. He was just telling his girl, he was being locked up. But that's continuing on. It says North Dakota man accused of raping baby receives 4-year prison sentence. According to the Bismarck Tribune, 33-year-old Andrew Glasser of Bismarck filed an Alford plea Monday to a sexual assault charge in the 2017 incident. He also pleaded guilty to several other charges, including child abuse, evidence tampering, and child pornography possession. So we already got an idea who this might be. But for the purpose, I know what it is, but this is why we're here. We're going to let everybody know what it is, what an Alford plea is. All right? Here we go. This is Esau's justice system. Remember that. All right? This is an Alford plea, also called a Kennedy plea in West Virginia, an Alford guilty plea, and Alford doctrine. In United States law is a guilty plea in criminal court whereby a defendant in a criminal case, all right, does not admit to the criminal act and asserts innocence. In entering an Alford plea, the defendant admits that the evidence presented by the prosecution would be likely to persuade a judge or jury to find the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Now let's get some origin on that, all right? The Alford guilty plea is named after the United States Supreme Court case of North Carolina v. Alford, 1970. Henry Alford had been indicted on a charge of first-degree murder in 1963. Evidence in the case included testimony from witnesses that Alford had said after the victim's death that he had killed the individual. Court testimony showed that Alford and the victim had argued at the victim's house. Alford left the house, and afterwards the victim received a fatal gunshot wound when he opened the door responding to a knock. Alford was faced with the possibility of capital punishment if convicted by a jury trial. The death penalty was the default sentence by North Carolina law at the time. If two requisites in the case were satisfied, the defendant had to have pleaded not guilty, and the jury did not instead recommend a life sentence. Had he pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, Alford would have had the possibility of a life sentence and would have avoided the death penalty, but he did not want to admit guilt. Nevertheless, Alford pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and said he was doing so to avoid a death sentence. Were he to be convicted of first-degree murder after attempting to contest that charge? Alford was sentenced to 30 years in prison after the trial judge accepted the plea bargain and ruled that the defendant had been adequately advised by his defense lawyer. This is Supreme Court Justice Byron White who wrote the decision, all right? It says Alford appealed and requested a new trial, arguing he was forced into a guilty plea because he was afraid of receiving a death sentence. The Supreme Court of North Carolina ruled that the defendant had voluntarily entered the guilty plea with knowledge of what that meant. Following this ruling, Alford petitioned for a writ of habeas corpus in the United States District Court of the Middle District of North Carolina, which upheld the initial ruling, and subsequently to the United States Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit, which ruled that Alford's plea was not voluntary because it was made under fear of the death penalty. I just pleaded guilty because they said if I didn't, they would gas me for it, wrote Alford in one of his appeals. The case was then appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. Supreme Court Justice Byron White, which is the photo here and the caption, all right, wrote the majority decision, which held that for the plea to be accepted, the defendant must have been advised by a competent lawyer who was able to inform the individual that his best decision in the case would be to enter a guilty plea. And we all know that, you know, this is Esau, Edom, and his wickedness, all right? Now, having a cell phone in prison doesn't even come close to this. The baby allegedly had an injury evident of sexual abuse, rib fractures caused by squeezing, and trauma injuries to her femur, tibia, and fibula in one leg, which were in different stages of healing. If that wasn't enough to bring up your breakfast, there's more. Remember Brock Turner or Owen LeBray? Inappropriately light sentences in sexual assault cases can hurt reporting of future crimes, experts. He raped a teenager as she was dying of an overdose. His sentence, 34 months. What the actual hell is happening in our courts? How does someone receive a sentence of less than 3 years for rape and murder? How does a judge think 12 years fits the crime of having a cell phone in prison? Well, to whoever wrote this, all right, it goes back to this country's original sin, and it even goes back further than that, all right? And it's you so-called white people, you are Edomites, all right? And it's your hatred for our people, which are Israelites, Jacob, descendants of Jacob. Simple as that, all right? You hate us, and you can't wait for the opportunity to let everyone know that you hate us, all right? So you know where I'm going. This is Isaiah, and that's why you do things like this. This is Isaiah chapter 10, verse 1. It says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed." All right? This is what you do. All right? Unrighteous decrees. Wow. And write grievousness. Let's go into that. This is Strong's H 5999. I maul, toil, trouble, labor, mischief. This is what you do. I hate them niggers. All right? That's what's at the heart of this. Miserable, iniquity, perverseness, wearisome, wickedness. That's what it just comes down to, wickedness, just outright wickedness. You're a wicked people, all right? You so-called white people, you Edomites that the Bible describes you as, all right? That's what you are. Let's see. Wow. Well, let's see what some of the comments are going to say here. Just curious. The foot, just like I said, white supremacist, Edomite supremacy, at its best. Uses 7856, or a black guy gets released after a 140th arrest with no bail. The hell? Let's see. Manifest Don says that's the best you can do. Justice Smollett and Roger Stone. And for those of you that don't know, Justice Smollett is when you understand genealogy and just basic biology, which people don't, all right, because they've fallen prey to this queen of heaven worship, and they think the woman has more to do. with things of that sort than they actually do. You are what your father is, point blank, period. And Justice Smollett's father is, now, it's a possibility he could be when you trace his lineage back, but from on the surface, and I say on the surface, you know, he's one of those Israelis. He's appears to be an Amalekite. All right, I'll put it that way. All right, it says, that's the best you can do. Jesse Smollett and Roger Stone comparison, man, please. Two scumbags don't count. We're talking about a baby rapist and a fucking cell phone. Get the fuck out of here, yo. Somebody else gives them the user 1491 says, anything to champion the white man. You all hate to accept the fact that we have been dealt with unjustly for centuries, so you pick and choose talking points to counter what we go through. Statistically, you'll always be wrong, but it doesn't matter. You all hate the truth. There you go. Manifest the dawn. Straight to the point. He goes in further. He says, user is to user 7856. He says, so you are defending a baby rapist is what you're saying. The brother gets excessive time over a cell phone, and that's fine since the baby rapist is an Edomite. Wow, what the fuck? Oh, I'm not going to even go in there. But anyway, yeah. So that's enough on that. Yeah, I'll just post a link, but wow, some of these people just live in like an alternate reality, all right? Anyway, let's get a couple of more here. Staying in Isaiah, I'll move that. This is Isaiah chapter 5. And they're really good at this. Verse 20, it says, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. And that's what these Edomites have done. They've taken everything, and, well, since I'm on that, verse 21, it says, woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. They profess to be a nation under God, but you have to question which God are they talking about. All right, they're not talking about the power of the Hebrews. All right, this whole society is built on witchcraft. And their power is the power of the left-hand side. All right, so let's go to, let's see, Isaiah 29. Let's see. Start at 15. It says, woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from the Most High Yahweh, and their works are in the dark, and they say, who seeth us, and who knoweth us? And this is how Esau, Edom, the so-called white man operates. He actually believes that the Most High doesn't know what he's up to, what's going on. All right, verse 16, it says, surely thou turning of things upside down. And clearly you can see this specific American society, and they have spread their doctrine and their wine all over the world, and everybody's falling for it, trying to get everybody to accept homosexuality and all this other wicked crap. all right? Once again, Isaiah chapter 29, verse 16, surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as a potter's clay, for shall the work say of him that made it, he made me not, or shall the thing framed say of him that framed it, he had no understanding. So Esau, Edom, the so-called white man who the Most High created to be the vessels of destruction, all right? He created them to be the wicked, Malachi 1st chapter, verses 1 through 4. All right, now he's turning around and he's turned everything, backwards. And now he's questioning the Most High as to, well, why did you make things like this? Why did you make me like this? And for that we have to go to Romans 9th chapter. Let's go down to around, let's see. Verse 19, it says, thou wilt say unto me, why doth he yet find fault? For who hath resisted his will? Talking about the Most High. 20, nay, but, O man, who art thou that repliest against the Most High? Shall the thing formed say to him that formed it, why hast thou made me thus? Hath not the potter power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor, which is Jacob, and another unto dishonor, which is Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. 22, what if the Most High, willing to shew his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much suffering the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction? And that's what Esau is, all right? He's, ultimately, that's what's going to happen to him. Obadiah, book of Obadiah, all right? So, going back, once again, this is the article. It says white guy gets 4 years for baby rape, black guy gets 12 years for having cell phone in jail. And however you try to make this about, well, this guy had 140 previous arrests, what does that have to do with what precipitated this? So what? All right, the fact that he had a phone, the fact that he was not trying to hide it, he gave up his passcode and everything. It's not like he was trying to smuggle it in, all right? So you just use this as an excuse. That's what I'm getting, all right? Because maybe this particular judge was tired of this guy being in front of him and he's trying to make a point, all right? But in either way, it's excessive. By comparison, they're trying to say, well, this guy, there's no evidence that he actually raped, all right? And I went into the Alford plea and all this, and then evidently he had porn, which I read. Here it is. Child abuse, evidence tampering, and child pornography possession. So it's ludicrous to even try, all right, to stick up for this guy, this Edomite. So once again, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man's hatred for Jake rears his ugly head. So with that, I hope whoever sees this is edified. All right, once again, we got to pray to get out of here, that this ends soon, and by all looks, our prayer is being answered, all right? So with that, once again, call halal Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushua, Bahashim Rakakwadash, double honors once again to the apostles of Green Millstone who told me this truth, who rule well. Salutations to the Akim out there on the highways and byways. All right, pushing this truth, all honesty and sincerity. I'll try and wake up the hopefully elect so we can get the hell up out of here. All right, what we're doing, you should know, it's not been in vain. Keep pushing this truth, all right? So with that, shalom, all right, Baba Ball.